And now he's going to be able to pinpoint the enemies out and possibly jump down for a pinch, but no, instead they're going to recoup with one another. There's still loot to be had here. There's so much gear here in this drop spot that you can actually farm up in these early instances, get all that ammunition and whatnot. And look, it's just a back and forth. It's almost like a mind game between the two, right? It's a taunting of sorts between both sides. No one's landed a big shot yet. Dukes is going to be the first one to take the snipe shot there. And that was from Frisk, who, by the way, hit that while he was in the air. So quite a ridiculous shot right there just to kick things off.
Yeah, let's kick things off. And this is a scary fighting team right now. And that's the one thing with the stacks. It does get a little bit awkward. Sometimes it's kind of hard to manage when you go off, when you go down. But they've got zone, so this fight can drag out a little bit longer. But this is going to be difficult for both these teams. We've seen it not just in this FNCS, but every FNCS monster. If you're contested on drop, even if you play it really well, even if you win it more times than not, it's enough to really affect your overall consistency. So it means that when you make it out, you have to have those big games. Right now, Frisk maybe going for an aggressive one. Not really sure about this play. He falls just a little bit short. Takes a lot of damage before this fight even begins. Doesn't have any shields left. Has no minis. So right now, Frisk is looking a little bit worse for wear down here. They tried to push onto Chap's turf. And right now, Duke's threats and Chap are looking okay. But I don't actually see Chap up here right now. I think Bully's taking advantage of that. They have the numbers game. Bully is all in and he's trying to get into the box. And he does. Gets the damage and takes down Chap, Dukes, and threats. It is now 1-0 over at Steamy Stacks to Bully's team.
Yeah, if you blinked, you missed Chap getting taken out in the initial opening instances there, and all of a sudden, Bully comes in with the full trio, sweeps them up and under the rug. Now, though, Nut, Zypha, and company here, holding that high ground. Joji down low with his teammates, of course, back-to-back here. Already 3 eliminations for them, so seems like they've had quite an interesting, quick fight already unfolded. Now, have another team landing right on top of them, looking to see if they can wrap this up.
Yeah, we've got some really good fights around the map. I'm seeing in the top left there. I'm also pretty sure there must be a fight breaking down in Pleasant Park between Scope's team from what I can see. So this is going to be an interesting one. We've now got at least 3 or 4 drops that are contested and are breaking out into these early fights. We're already down to 80 players out of 99. I guarantee the ones that make it off spawn will stay very safe. We'll have our incredibly NAE stacked endgames like we know. But it just shows, because some of those kings aren't in this, because some of those big names who've had these drop spots on lockdown for weeks aren't here, you've got teams like that are trying to vie their way in and try to claim it if they can, as Zypha tries to claim these builds with a beautiful use of the gas can, trying to find angles there. Has that green charged shotgun, but he's taken fire from the gas can he used. Has the slurp, has the chug splash. If you also try and put that one out, maybe.
Yeah, but that was worth it. 10 HP for a crack on the 72 for the shot that he hit right there is definitely worth it here. Now, Six again, another 70 plus pop shot there. Not too bad here. The edit's going to be good. The knock was even better. And there goes the full on finish. They got this guy dead to rights here. Backed against the wall. Should be a 3v1 close in. And yes, they're going to full W key into the box here, Ozzy. There's no way you survive those.
No, and this is a brand new team. It's interesting to see Zypha, Twexy, and Nut have only formed most recently in the last week. If you guys saw, Zypha was playing with Scoped earlier, decided that he was going to go split with him, play with Nut, and then they picked up Twexy, which is the ex-console god himself, and proving that he can hang with the best of the best in the PC now. So he's on the main stages, on the grand finals here, as I see Okus as well in the feed, as we're going to see, looks like Ronaldo's team get into a little bit of an engagement as well. So there's some big names going across the board. We're already below the Storm Surge threshold.
Yeah, look at that. And we don't really get to see this very often. I feel like we're looking at a brand new NAE style of gameplay here. Teams looking to roll into cities and clear them out. And that's what we watched just go down here at the Misty Meadows. That's going to need, that team's going to have to hit the drawing board, right? Users dictating, they're going to have to hit the drawing board, because if they, one, they're dropped that quickly, but then they're just going to get pushed and taken out by Zypha's crew. They're going to do that over and over. And next time, they might not even finish that first fight so fast. So we'll see what they can do as far as adjusting their playstyle. On the other side, though, the Colossal Coliseum, very weird terrain to battle in, a tough place to fight if you're not prone to the box-to-box, hip-to-hip type of playstyle.
Yeah, we saw a lot of aggression breaking down around this area in OCE last night, Monster, but I'm pretty sure Calc Sebi just want to set up here on the edge and go for tags. This isn't their drop spot. Like I talked about, I think this is the team that's getting that really big split across the bridge, all the way that area between Dirty and Coliseum, all the way down to Lazy, and it looks like this is going to be their spot to set up for Surge tags, and it's a beautiful spot to do so. All clear terrain, really clear sightlines on all these players. I think they moved in a bit early as well, because I definitely saw in the feed that Paper and Jamper's team picked up an elimination early, so they were contested contested. Maybe seeing if they can come clean this one up, but not needing to, as Calc is actually set up right next to Voil and Rokane, which is a team that he had a short stint with in the recent week. So maybe a bit of bad blood there, I'm not sure, but he has been performing so well with Sebi and Furious. And Furious is a player that had more earnings than anyone else during the solo FNCS year, popping off completely, but has just struggled to find a team that he works with or wants to stick with him. So I'd love to see this trio pop off here today, because they definitely did that yesterday in the qualifiers.
And you made a good point there. Furious, definitely one of those ones that's traded hands a few times now. We'll see how he can, hopefully settle down with someone like Calculator, who Calculator as well in recent times has been struggling to find himself a home of a team. And Sebi now is trying to fill in that role as well. So here's Hap, Uvik, and Daxter. Daxter, someone, again, talk about players missing their better half as far as the lead up, right, of what we've seen from Daxter. Daxter, and again, now by himself here, is going to have to play with Hap and Uvik. This is a team that's trying to figure things out. So many new teams, I feel like, are breaking into the space and really just trying to see how this competitive season is going to treat them.
Yeah, and we saw some other names come out in FNCS. That's what FNCS is for. That's what the official broadcast is for, to highlight these players that you maybe haven't heard about as well. If they aren't streaming the games, usually you don't get to see just how they're performing, but that is why it's here, and that's why we're doing it in so many regions this year around Monster. Worldwide, people are getting their chance to step up and make a name for themselves, and with the qualifying system these weeks, with 4 rounds, you really do get the best of the best in these final rounds. So it's going to be indicative of how maybe potentially the semifinals into finals are going to look. So we talked about it. Top 10 gets you automatically qualified. So if you're going to get top 10, you've got to do it in a big way, because you've got to sit back for 2 weeks and let the other teams duke it out. And that's when drop spot contentions become a little bit more awkward. You can't defend the drop that maybe you had on lockdown. So this FNCS system is entirely different, and it's going to be so interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, for sure. Here goes the little rotate down the river now. Daxter already tagged once on the move here, trying to see if he can continue to make it to the new zone. Seems like this is going to be a northern pool. Uvik playing a bit more passively. You can see building earlier, and Daxter gets punished again. Remember, every time he gets tagged, that's a big pot, right, that they're digging into their resources. A shield fish potentially here. You can see Hap only has another chug splash left, so they've already used a lot of their resources to heal up. And this is a bit early in the rounds, right? Only 70 players in the lobby, so for them to be getting tagged so soon, it's kind of unfortunate. And I mean, not even a prime location either. They don't have, I'd say, the prime desert terrain or anything like that.
Yeah.
They do have the meadow, of course, at their disposal, but this is not not the greatest position to be in. And it's all because they were held out just a little bit by Calculator, Sebi, and company, who's on the edge of the Coliseum.
Yeah, those early rotates is why this part of the map is so good. If you drop in, there's a very good chance you have a prime real estate when it comes into first or second zone. If you're center map, chances are statistically it's going to pull towards you, and you get to set up early, get those tags. Now we get sights on one of the most popular teams coming into this one, one that has a lot of pressure on them. Clix, Booger, and Bizzle recently forming in. A lot of questions around how they would perform, but they really are proving people wrong at the moment who doubted them as a team with their chemistry. 3 phenomenal names on paper, but people kind of questioning how well they'd work together. So far in this FNCS, especially this week, really, really well.
Yeah, it's almost like looking at three alpha leaders trying to follow one person. Like, who is really going to take the reins here? Who's going to lead this team when you have 3 dominant players in Booga, in Bizzle, in Clix, all of which have their own decorated histories. Again, this is a star-studded team. I don't think we've ever seen one of this caliber, of this nature, form and band together and find this much success. I'd say the closest we'd probably have is their counterparts to EU, right? The MMB trio. And even then, this is still a different caliber of Booga, Clix, and Bizzle, because in recent times, all 3 of these guys have been shining as individual players.
Yeah, they have. And like you said, it's big personalities too. That's what always concerns you. Who's going to listen to who? But the way they've divvied up seems really, really smart. It looks like Bizzle's kind of lent into that early and mid-game IGL, or in-game leader, as we like to call it, who decides where they're going to set up, where they're going to rotate, how they're going to get their Storm Surge tags. And then seeing Clix move into a role that not a lot of people expected. He's actually taken on more of a tarping and leadership role when it comes to endgame. We talk about tarps as just the player that builds those big structures that get you to zone. When you've got 60 people on top of you in such a small area, someone has to keep you protected and decide which way you're going to go. And usually Clix being known as one of the best fraggers or the best player at getting eliminations with those just incredible mechanics. But him leaning into that role has been so fantastic to watch. It's like he's had like a new life, especially in team game modes, because that's where Clix has struggled a bit. FNCS Grand Finals, team game modes is where Clix really needs to prove that he's still got it. And I think with the way they've shifted this team, I think they can do just that. And obviously Vivid does too. He picked him as their prediction to win.
Yeah, no doubt. And you think about what Bugha was filling as far as roles before. Bugha was the one who was lead tarping, right? He had to be IGL, but also he wanted to be looking for those frags. And that was where he was having a problem. He didn't want to be the IGL for his team. So again, Clix stepping up to that role. Bugha falling back into that primary fragger really allows him to hyper focus. And if he has to, he knows how to keep up mechanically just as good as Clix. So it really is a power dynamic of a trio. Here, though, the drone shot showing you guys all the big boys on the scene right now. There is no safe place in sight, especially with how many of these squads are holding a pillar right on the Coliseum. Like every single which way you can see out in the distance is being watched like a hawk's right here from C9's Nos. Jam for Paper on the other side. You have Voyu, Rokane. You have Kalkin, Sebi's team watching that other corner. Like no one is safe here on the desert.
No one's safe around the desert. And you hear those sniper shots ring out. It's one of the main things you carry in the inventory. With the removal of most mobility that you can carry, it's really, it's either triple meds, an assault rifle, and a shotgun, or usually it's assault rifle, shotgun, sniper, or maybe harpoon. It doesn't give you a lot of options, which means a lot of people do have those snipers in the back pocket, as we see a bit of a beam there on, I believe that may have been Macwood's team that was rotating. But I talk about lack of carryable mobility, but this part of the map, you have two main ways to get around right now. You can use those 0-point rocks that you break around, use them, and then you get that kind of dashing mobility boost, or go into the sand and see if you can tunnel your way in, which normally in a normal game feels a lot safer. But with this many eyes on you, you've really got to be careful, as it was Macwood's team that moved. Kanata, Bucky, and Macwood, my picks here to win today, a little bit spread out, which isn't super unusual with this one, but the way they've set up, they must already have a decent amount of storm surge, because they don't have a lot of sight lines down here, but that can also be a positive. Less people can see them.
Yeah, definitely. And Macwood got sniped there by C9's Nosh. So let's see what Nosh can do here, as he's already got 2 eliminations himself. Sniper in hand, players in distance here. They have to make a move. You talked about using that desert. Nope, they're not going to use the sand dunes that auto-rotate here. Instead, they're going to use the 0-point crystals to go ahead and get going. It's Npenzunis and company who are on the move. That's Aspect in the back there trying to figure things out, and he's going to go and dash up behind the house. That means they're desperate to refarm some material. Anything that they can pick up, go ahead and reset and keep themselves comfortable. They're looking to grab at this moment.
Yeah, they got to try and get some area here. Npenzunis and Aspect have been performing so well coming into this one, so I'm excited to see how they go. You've got, you got a veteran in there. It's so crazy when it comes to NA East. There's just those big names that just have been around for so long. We talked about how Viv is now on the analyst desk since the skirmish days. He's been playing against Aspect for just that long as well, still performing. Reverse 2K World Cup qualifier back, our FNCS returning champions with Miro and Day, a team that shocked a lot of people to actually split after last FNCS Monster, but they're back together and they've been looking really good, and that is a scary loadout in the hands of Miro. I think we answered who's going to be going Hydro Dam.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that the way the competitive season is going to break out this time around. If they win again, if they qual or place top 3 again after the finals, they do get to continue their reign into the next FNCS. You basically get a free pass. So they figured, hey, why not just go back for the 2-peat here and see what they can do? And I mean, they have the skill to do it, right? The scrims prove it. The fact that they can continue to qualify for these stages, these late stages in the games, also prove it, right? Look at how many teams did not make it this far, and they got in comfortably. It wasn't a team that struggled, right, or had a rough time per se. They've got a strategy, and they've continued to pull through. The season hasn't changed that much since the last time they were here.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest issue they were having was their drop spot. They were trying to go Salty Towers into Npenzunis, an Aspect that wasn't working. The way the FNCS works as well, same thing. Night before, they've seen, wait, Zate's team hasn't qualified. Let's go Hydro Dam. And they are one of the scariest teams. If they say they're going somewhere, I doubt other people are looking to go there, as Jack, Acorn, and Slacks beautifully use those 0 points I was talking about earlier. They each pop one. They get to dart into zone. It's so much harder to hit an opponent when they're jumping around that fast. The biggest risk, though, which you saw them counter perfectly, is when you go to use it, there's that like half a second it takes to activate. You are so vulnerable to any amount of beam or headshot snipe potentially, so boxing up on those and using them for later rotates, just showing why they're some of the best.
Yeah, for sure. Now polarized. They're looking around. Also, a couple elims on this team. They're going to be a-okay for anything that's going to go down. Ronaldo's going to fall in the feed there to AJ. DBG AJ, who we just saw just a little bit ago. And there goes that storm surge warning that I was trying to prep us up for. We knew that it was going to happen. We knew that the opening instances were going to be a bit of a war of sorts. And it was just that. We were down to 70 players after the first zone close. That is not something we see very often. That is not a traditional NA East-paced game. I mean, even OCE had more players than that. Like, remember, that first game we watched, we had no teams drop for over a minute and a half in the first instances. NA East is already ready. They're primed for the setting right now. In game one, they don't need warm-ups. They don't even need introductions. They know who's in front of them.
Yeah, they know each other. This is one of the best practice scenes in the world. They scrim against each other day after day using custom matchmaking, and man, their games are phenomenal. So they know how to play these ones. But again, some of those players they're used to playing haven't made it in. So there's kind of a few spanners in the works, and they need to step up and control something. Macwood, a team that's been doing phenomenally well, not looking too great right now, dropping back into this full-built hard mats. When we talk about hard mats, brick and metal, because they're just so much harder to break. And luckily, they had this base on the low ground to kind of retreat back into. And luckily, they have more than enough meds to heal this one out, as zone doesn't look like it's going to be too difficult for them, as looks like Lupin's going to get the pick up there as well. But this is where NA East does it best, Monster. The lobby's cleared out a little bit now as people trying to claim their drops, but this is where they show their prowess, how good they are at rotating, how good they are at positioning. I'd be surprised to see many people go down now, except for Storm Surge, and I believe that is on Jack, Acorn, and Slacks right now.
Yeah, huge Storm Surge down the other side of the wall. Sevi and Calculator as well. A Storm Surge team, a team under pressure, is the scariest team to have nearby to you, because they have to jump in your box. They have to fight you if they don't have a ridiculous amount of heals to sustain the zone. And it doesn't look like Jack, Acorn, and Slacks had that, because they were already inching their way closer to the enemies nearby. Nos, Jamfer, and Paper do have that first half in, half out zone, and they also have it on top of the Coliseum. Don't forget, the Coliseum is an indestructible structure, right? So they are very much based up here. And the amount of extra material they get to save just because of the natural height they were given off the rip here is beautiful for them right now coming in. And look, Jack is still under pressure. Acorn's already out the lobby.
Yeah, and Blake and Oka's looking pretty worse for wear as well. Jack, Acorn, and Slacks, I think they tried to out-heal this Storm Surge, because there you go, it now goes passive. As you can see in the top left, 50 players alive. That is the threshold it had to get to. I think Jack, Acorn, and Slacks thought they could out-heal it, but unfortunately they fell short. NA East showing why they are some of the best in these stack lobbies. They pushed those Storm Surge numbers up so high, and now we have Paper, Nosh, and Jamper on the high ground. What can they do to control this? We did see the RPG in the lobby, but we also don't know how that's going to play into this endgame now, if they can do something with it to take the high ground, because they are established. You talked about it, Monster. They're on an indestructible structure. There's not many things in Fortnite you can't break. The Coliseum is one of them, but just like that, they get an opposite first rotating zone. 6 zone pulls all the way opposite, straight towards the northern coastline. So they have to decide now, do we tarp this whole zone? Do we build a layer all the way across the sky, or do we hit a bounce pad? Do we drop down? How do we get to the next zone? If they got given that zone, they were going to be sitting pretty, and yes, it is a bounce pad, but can they reestablish it later, maybe?
Yeah, they don't want to miss the boat. They're gone. They're trying to rotate nice and early. Oh my gosh, double fried out the air there. Bizzle, Booga, and Clicks are hitting every single shot. They are on fire already. You know, Jamper and crew look like they had an easy pass here. Normally, when you get half in, half out, you are good to go, but not when you have players like Clicks, Booga, and Bizzle on the other side, hitting every single shot. And Clicks is going to continue the narrative here. And that was on to Zuni's. And now he's got, look at this free reign here, the angles. It's looking so good for Clicks right now.
So much damage, and Clicks going up onto his natural spot on the ultimate high ground. He's been doing this for this team for a very long time. Clicks and Bizzle, obviously no strangers to playing together. Booga, the new addition, but man, do they have their roles well. We have Bizzle on the front side, keeping this tarp healthy, keeping them in zone, and Clicks doing what Clicks does best. On the high ground, I talked about it earlier in the game, he usually plays kind of the tarper role. When it's height, he is the ultimate height player. He plays for those big AR beams right now and makes sure that if someone comes up, they're not getting on top of them, because they want to hold this height. They want to go for that big victory royale when they already have 4 eliminations on the board, Monster. That's 8 points in this format.
Yeah, and Clicks just does a great job there. Splits his loot there, dropping it down to Booga. So Booga's got everything that he needs to work with. Pepper's in hand for most of these players as well. They are literally coasting their way through this endgame. No worry about the surge here. While everyone else has so much to worry about down low, they have infinite amounts of pressure here on this high ground game. This is their game to win now. Game number 1 of 6. One step closer for Booga, Bizzle, and Clicks. if they can continue to just put this pressure down, walk their way through. 4 elims already is not too shabby, especially considering the way the points are distributed now. Yes, placements are high, but elims matter so much more as well. They stack you up, they put you in comfortable positions.
The only thing I'm scared about there, we got it from that beautiful three-way perspective of all their loadouts. I only saw one flopper monster. We've seen how many of these games go to heal off. They don't have that heal off potential. So they can still pull it off, but they need to do something big. When it comes to this end game, when you get to those final closeout 9th zone, they need to drop down and make something big happen, because this team has way too much experience. They know that if they can't win the heal off, they're playing for second, and no team wants to play for second. So they're going to start working their way down. The zone's pulling across. It's not going back through old builds, so it's going to draw this lobby out a little bit more. There's less places to hide. They're just going to keep going through those mats and the utility they have. But Jamper taking some big damage on the low ground, and Jamper, Paper, and Nosh have so many eliminations on the board. 9. Can they make it 10? No, they fall, but it's still a great game. Not too much placement, but a lot of eliminations.
And wow, that was all to the hands of Trick by himself. A full team wipe. Gotta give him credits for that one as he jumps in the box, that tree, blocking all line of sits. A Bully makes a top 10 there, so from his drop spot all the way to the end game here, not bad for him. That's a top 10 positioning there. Now, as we get closer and closer, look at Clix lighting up the feed here. 2 more eliminations already swinging to Clix. That is from that high ground pressure. That is from the angles he's looking for on this top rope here. But now, they're trying to figure this out. How are they going to win this game? What's their win condition? I think they give Clix, yes, Clix drops everything that he has for heals, and he's looking to work his way down low. He's already on fire. He's already feeling himself here.
Yeah, that's the thing I talked about. They didn't have the heal-off potential. Clix has to work his way down now, but Clix does this well. He knows how to box fight. He's going to drop down the layers, see if he can get even more eliminations, because I touched on it. They don't have the heal-off potential, and I guarantee a team down here does. They've made top 3. This is where the big placement points come in, but second and first would be such a nice buffer as well. He's trying to build forward, trying to claim as many of those cones and floors as he can to make his way in, and we've got AJ down there. We've got Vix. We've got some teams that aren't used to being in the end games as much. Clix Bizzle going back up now, and Clix seeing what he can do on the low ground, dealing some damage. ADV comes up. PD Plague is going up. He's going to try and playground Bizzle. He's going to go for the high ground, but Booger's right there to back him back up, and they take it. They take game 1 win with 8 eliminations on Clix. 8 alone. I think that was 12 total and the win, Monster.
Yeah, that was a 12 elimination game, and Clix is a specialist when it comes down to 1v1, a specialist for the box fights, and he handled that well, handled that accordingly. All the backup as well from Bizzle, right, to come in as well, just in time as Booger was holding that high ground. I didn't expect this power star-studded trio to take game 1, but I'm not upset that they did.
Yeah, I know, and we have our resident pro on the desk now. We have Vivid stepping up, and he might even pull off the prediction on his first time here. Vivid, you guys are going to have to run me through exactly why you picked them, because clearly you knew they were going to pop off here. That is a massive game.
See, I like this because Ozzy knows what we know, Vivid, and that is that you've already had this downloaded. We were just talking about this. Vivid, you were saying that a lot of people are looking at this trio and they're saying, hey, for some reason these guys just don't seem to mesh well with the trios that they're on separately. Then you bring these trios, these guys together in a trio, and suddenly you've just got star power. What the heck are we looking at here?
Yeah, so I mean, Booga's had like a run-in with a couple trios now, and obviously like Clix and Bizzle have had a couple swaps. But together, man, like I was just looking at the trio and I was like, you know, Booga didn't want to IGL anymore, so he went ahead, joined Bizzle and Clix. Let's Bizzle IGL now, and then look, come out, qualifier 1, first game of the finals, boom, they take the dub.
And actually, something interesting to add to that is the fact that all 3 of these players, over the past kind of reputation of their time, have had this reputation of being a really good solo player and not being a good team player. Now, is that true? Maybe it was in the past, but joining all 3 of these together, clearly the success is coming for them.
Yeah, the experience on these guys is... The experience on the guys is crazy. When you look at Bizzle, Booga, like they've been through so many events, including like World Cup and stuff like that, and then combine that experience with the firepower of somebody like Clix, and like this trio can just absolutely do incredible things, especially with the Sweaty Sands uncontested.
That is the scary part of this. Now we're gonna dive into this a little bit more in just a second. First, let's take a look. We're gonna take a look at the replays from this game. I got so ahead of myself. Now, gentlemen, that's kind of what I want to touch on. Is we're always talking about this subject of like spots being uncontested versus contested. Now, in case you don't know, contested just means there's multiple trios trying to hit the same drop spot. These guys have an uncontested drop spot. Why is this so dangerous, Reese?
Okay. Let me lay it down for you.
Okay.
Now, uncontested drop spot easily means that you're not going to spend time fighting another team in your drop spot. It's fairly simple, but at the same time, if you have that looting path super efficiently, that means you can rotate earlier and you can get into a better position to start getting Storm Surge tags. If you're contested off your drop spot, you may get those Storm Surge tags from that fight, and it may be enough, potentially not in a region like NA East, but at the same time, it's going to drag out. You're going to have worse loot unless you manage to finish that fight really, really quickly, which against the best teams of the best, most of the time, they drag out, and it becomes very, very difficult to actually start rotating in a timely manner.
Yeah.
How you feel about that,
With
Vivid?
Well, with somebody like Clix on your team, you can end fights very, very fast. So I don't see Storm Surge being a problem for this team. And like I mentioned earlier, the experience of Bizzle and Bugha in finals, they have so much experience. So they know how to rotate this uncontested drop spot. They're going to be able to rotate early, get very, very good positions for Storm Surge, and potentially not even have to force a fight and use the firepower of Clix early on and like save them for later, you know? Just because they'll be in such a good position to get those tags with their rifles and stuff like that.
I remember watching these guys, just specifically Clix and Bizzle in the last FNCS, and one thing that they did so well is just controlling high ground, dictating when players could and could not approach them. And yeah, I think adding Bugha, a world champion, this trio is just gonna show up in ways that we have not yet seen. Now we are gonna take a look at our standings and see how things are kind of coming out. So one of the things that casters pointed out, 12 eliminations in the very first game. So we'd like to talk about this consistency factor, trying to pair high placement, at least top 3, with a number of eliminations. And Reese, this is it. This is what we're trying to do.